It is exactly 1 week from today to the handing over of May 29. A lot of security deployment. We also have hotels fully booked in Abuja. A lot of people are beginning to, trip into the country for the handing over. Good morning and welcome to the Dailies on Neko Television, your winning station where we keep you updated with what is happening from our Nigerian newspaper. I am Sela Elisha, and of course, my co-host Rachel Taz is here with me. Good morning.
Morning, Sarah.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm great. How's the weekend?
It was fine. Weekend
Okay.
was
Even
normal.
though
How was
looking
yours?
very taxi. I was tired. A lot of things to do.
I rested well this weekend.
Yeah, I've renewed my strength this morning, so
All
thank
right.
God for that. We are live on Facebook and on YouTube, so please, you can do well to drop your comment or your contribution on any story that is of interest to you. And as usual, later on we'll open the phone line so you can also air your views on what you feel are interesting to you on the papers this morning. And we will be starting with the newspaper reviews, looking at the New Telegraph newspaper.
A New Telegraph newspaper, starting with the first quarter report of 2023, Nigeria earned 54.45 billion naira from money transfer levy. Analysts predict fresh lending rate hike as MPC meets. You can find the details on page 17. And on May 29, federal government releases circular to restrict movement within Abuja. Lack of transparency, Senate orders Works Minister to refund 692 million naira. We have exporters' financial loss. Over 70% of Nigeria's food exports rejected in US and others coming from NAFDAC, and you can find the details on page 2. The Africa Movie Viewer Choice Award 2023, Kunle Afalanya, Bimbo, Ademoye, Toby Bakare, and Brother Shaggy top winners. You can find the details on page 7. And the National Assembly leadership race, Kalu Yari G6 turned down third-party emissaries. Insists on meeting with Tinubu. Bajabia Miller leads Abbas to APC NWC to present signatories. Kwankwaso directed NNPP members elect to join APC's team, joint tax. Why we endorse Kalu for Senate presidency. You can find the details of the big story on pages 2, 4, and 26. APC group demands MPC's chair sacking, prosecution over 200 billion naira expenditure. This is still on the census, says it's bad image for ruling party. UK to ban Nigerian student orders from bringing families over, a report. You can find the details on page 3. Gunmen abduct Catholic priest in Imo State. You can find the details on page 5 and 6. Still on New Telegraph newspaper, 2015 to 2023, Buhari came, saw, but unfulfilled promises of the APC government. Nigerians speak on what the president will be remembered for. World leaders accorded Buhari respect, says Abdesina. Failed Abuja CCTV project, account for $460 million Chinese loan, court orders Buhari. You can find the details on page 4, 7, 9 to 11. And in Labour Party, Obi didn't ask court for 7 weeks to produce witnesses. You can find the details on page 2 and 4. At the downside of the paper, we have a study that says shift work could limit female fertility. The details you can find on page 7, and that's all the news on New Telegraph newspaper.
Richard, before we move to the next paper, I think this report that UK to ban Nigerian students and others from bringing families over, I was actually reading that story yesterday and actually took my time to digest, comprehend this story carefully, and then it will shock Nigerians to know that this is starting from tomorrow. The UK Prime Minister has already given the go-ahead. So I think if you are having your your brother, your sister that are schooling in the UK, then you should be rest assured that you can no longer go over there bringing their family. So it could just be for you to visit and come back. But they said PhD holders are accepted from such. So if you're actually running a PhD program in the UK, your family can come over to meet your reason, because you can spend about 3 to 5 years while doing your PhD. But for those who are running master's program program and the rest, likely 1 year, 2 years, so you're not permitted to bring your families over. And when I was reading that story, Rachel, that brought my attention the fact that as a country, we need to do better. Because of course, when you see families going over there, it's because of, most times, it's because of the, greener pasture that they are hoping to get there. Because by the time you begin to get 1 or 2, some little money, you want your family to, go join you over there. And then we've seen that, I think earlier UK was the same country that banned doctors from, practicing over there. So you can see that UK is beginning to build their country in such a way that it's making it very difficult for Nigerians to go over there. And I'm looking at it from the point of view where, as a country, we need to look into how we can, boost our health sector and also boost our educational sector, because these are the 2 major reasons why we have Nigerians always going outside the country for either health checkup or for better education. So with all of this, because it's starting from tomorrow, this is what this report is. So I'm just hoping that we'll do our best as a country. As we are looking toward the handing over, let's also look toward doing better for our own country at the long run.
Stella, it's not like I'm in support of the Japa syndrome, or I would want to say, yes, Nigerians should keep going. I believe that we need to make Nigeria better for Nigerians to stay. However, I want to believe that this is harsh and very biased on Nigerians in the first place, because now the UK government is making it look as if when you just move there, you get the opportunity to just take your family over there, whereas we know that that is not how it's being done. There are criteria, and if you meet that criteria, I don't see a reason why we should just be banned for no reason, Sele. Even if I'm just doing my master's and I am in the UK, for example, you have to be able to be in the position to afford to bring your family over, not just because you're studying there. So I'm imagining myself being in a situation where I can afford to bring my family to stay with me, but I can't because there is a ban by the government. Then you look at it that it is harsh and biased in a lot of sense. Because it is fair when some of your concerns concerning the practicing doctors is that you found a lot of illegal people coming with certificates that are not theirs, and then you're putting in more strict and more harsh measures, more strict measures to just make sure that you have people that are qualified to come in as doctors and nurses. This is understood because the life of people are at stake. But if I am a student in the UK and I can afford, because a lot of people go for their master's degree, they have money, they have businesses doing, and they have a system that permits them and allows them to work and make income. If I have lived for a while and I can afford to bring in a family and I pass whatever criteria it is demanded for me to bring in a family, then I should be able to bring in a family. Not that there should just be a ban because maybe we are moving in too much, whereas Nigeria is one among the many other people who are migrating to the UK every day. We have Indians migrating in large numbers to the UK. If we are to follow population, they are more than us in the UK as it is now. So when you make it, is this only on Nigerians or is it on every other people migrating to the country? Because then it's all about criteria, it's all about principles, all about passing what is expected for you, not just a ban imposed. For what reason? Because you should just make the rules or the regulation more strict. But as long as I am in the UK and I have the criteria, I have everything, I have all my documents, and I have the income that it takes to be able to bring in a family member and be able to take care of that family member, then I believe that I should not be restricted just by a ban, because then it turns out to be harsh and biased. And as I say earlier, it's not about the Japan. I'm not going to sit down here and say it's okay for Nigerians to keep living Nigeria, but at the same time, when you see such ban coming in from nowhere, then we need to know why more, and we need more details to know. Is it just on Nigerians? And if it is just on us, what is the reason? Then instead of a ban, why don't you make a more strict criteria for people to bring in their family rather than just a complete ban on families, trying to bring other families along with them.
Rachel, if you ask me, I just think that this is an eye-opener for us in the country to do better, because just like you asked a very sensible question, is it just Nigeria that they are banning or other countries? And that should tell a lot about us in the country. We had the issue with South Africa. How comes it's just Nigerians that were having that problem? We had the same thing in Ghana. So we need to come back inwardly here, internally in the house, and sit down together and say, why are we being treated this way? And that should tell a lot. I think when we sit down, then we begin to finger the problems, then I think that will help us to build our country. And then we will not be treated like all this second class, being banned anyhow, and then as if we don't have a choice, you know. So I just hope for better. Well, let's take a look at the next paper, which is this day newspaper. Wabote over $50 billion oil industry project unveiled at Oil and Gas Fair. With the rider coming from the federal government, Nigeria's oil sector still dominated by foreigners despite government's effort. NEPL targets 60 additional oil wells by 2024. You can read the story on the front page and more on page 6. See Monday interview with IGP Osuma Baba at pages 46 and 48. We know we have a new IGP, so you can do well to read the interview on pages 46 and 48. Onyanyika banks call for live broadcast of presidential tribunal proceedings, which you can find on page 6. 7 African presidents joined Buhari to open Dangote refinery, continent's game changer, with the rider 650,000 barrel per day facility to alter international energy landscape and petrol smuggling in Nigeria. Tinubu, Emifede, governors, minister, top business leaders to witness Approach event. Refinery a significant achievement for Africa, Adeleke declares. And then we have Afribank proud as its largest financier. And then we have Rwani saying that refinery will strengthen Nigerians' macroeconomic stability. You do well to read more detail of that story on page 6. We can see the picture of the Dangote refinery, and then hopefully it will be open today. And then we have downside another story coming from Atiku. He said, this unity feeds hate, which in turn feeds conflicts. You can find more detail of that story on page 57. And that's all on this day newspaper.
On Blueprint newspaper, Buhari, Tinubu, 5 African presidents commission Dangote refinery today. Court to federal government account for $460 million CCTV Abuja field project. The rider following that orders clarification on 1.5 billion naira CCB contract 2. Serap Hill's judgment. You can find the details on page 6. At the downside of the paper, how El Rufai sacrificed for power shift to the south by Wike. You can find the details on page 15. At the downside of the paper, we have wives must allow men sufficient rest to give their best. This is a statement coming from NAOWA. You can find the details inside the paper on page 8. Bandits take over Kainji National Park, expel staff. 80-year-old woman raped to death in Oyo. You can find in Ondo State, rather. You can find the details on page 13. Police kill 2 kidnappers, recover arms in Rivers. You can find the details on page 18. And we have a picture story that says members of staff of the National Youth Service Corps and some corps members during the interdenominational Thanksgiving service in Abuja on Sunday. And that's all the news on Blueprint newspaper.
Daily Independent newspaper, court orders Buhari government to account for the $460 million failed Abuja CCTV project. UK to ban Nigerian students from traveling with families. You can find detail of the story on page 29. The big story, aviation minister in Delima over national carrier project, with the rider plan to use Ethiopian Airlines NG Eagle aircraft fails. NCAA reluctant to issue airline air operation certificate. We were prepared before court case coming from the minister's aide. You can find that story on page 29. Explore ways to create wealth to break chain of corruption. Nexa tax Tinubu. You can find that on page 7 as well. NAFTA to resolve rejection of 70% of Nigerians' food export. And then we also have another story said, it's infuriating, tell election losers to go to court, coming from Clark. Says governor's corrupt problem of Nigeria. And on the 10th National Assembly, joint tax group vow to deliver Abbas Kalu as Speaker and Deputy. And we're having an analyst here that said Nigeria's economy under Buhari worst in 24 years. You want to know what all that means? You can do up to start reading on the front page and read more inside the paper. We have bandits killed 9 in Kaduna community, 5 die in Sokoto explosion. You can find that story as well on page 6. And that's all on Daily Independent newspaper.
On New National Star newspaper, starting with a big story, NDDC board management fight dirty over budget implementation. The writer flowing the story, commission operates 367 bank accounts, Onochi alleges. Panel demands managing director's appearance today. As chairman, you lack executive powers, Idoma Eba tells Onochi. You can find the details inside the paper. Election tribunal proceedings must not be like secret meetings. Senate indicts work ministry of 692 million naira fraud. Diaspora remittance to Nigeria hit $19.8 billion in 2022, a report coming from the CBN. You can find the details on page 13. Minister of Power Igali Ajero, other energy experts for new National Star Breakfast meeting on Tuesday. Explosion kills 4 in Sokoto. You can find the details on page 3. We have court orders federal government to account for $460 million Chinese CCTV loan. You can find the details on page 8. And that's all the news on New National Star.
On the Nation newspaper, explain your source of wealth, El-Rufai tell predecessors. You can find detailed inside the paper. Interest rate likely to go up again as the MBC meets. So we just hope that even as the interest, because each time we have a monetary policy meeting, we definitely hope, or always we tend to see that there's an interest rate hike. I think lately the interest rate is about 18 points.
Yes.
18.5 or so. So with the meeting again, I just hope that it won't be 19 or 20% interest, because that is just for commercial banks. So imagine as an individual, you're asking for loan, and then I think already banks have been complaining recently that people are even refusing to deposit money because of course, because of the cash crunch. You can hope that Nigerians will just keep rotating the money within themselves and not take it to the bank. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed and keep you updated on that business angle, what will happen during the meeting. Still on the Nation newspaper, sack fever grips aviation workers after fan shakeup. You can find more detail on page 8. Afe Babalola urges incoming government to seek debt forgiveness, which you can find on page 10. Buhari, 5 African president to inaugurate Dangote refinery. You can find detail on the front page and inside the paper. UK to ban foreign students from relocating with families, which you can find on page 10. And coming from Sheitima, Tinubu will run an all-inclusive administration, why the Southeast should support incoming government by Umahi. You can find it on the front page and inside the paper. Why President-elect met with Kwankwaso by Jibrin, Ganduji aware of party. You can find more inside the paper. Terrorists take over Kainji National Park, and then woman held with gun. You can find all of the stories inside the paper, and that's all on the Nation newspaper.
On the Punch newspaper, Presidential Poll Tribunal parties disagree as court rules on live broadcast today. We have a column that says Buhari's years the power sector still a quagmire. You can find the details inside the paper on page 23. Dangote refinery opens today, eyes crude oil from 3 continents. Buhari, Tinubu, African leaders, orders to attend launching. Refinery to meet daily fuel consumption, create 100,000 jobs. We are looking forward to that. And we saw in the papers last week that it should be expecting 300,000 barrel of crude oil every day to be able to refine. And for me, the most interesting part is not even the availability of the crude oil, because I know Nigeria, we have just been in the position to have more than enough. However, I'm seeing that it can create 100,000 jobs for Nigerians, and whether we like it or not, even if it's a 0.001% increment to the reduction to the high unemployment rate, I think it is something that we should look forward to that. And you can find the details on page 27. At the downside of the paper, account for $460 million CCTV loan court orders federal government. NDLEA arrests Baron in Lagos hotel over 567 million naira seized drug. Don't judge me based on performance as minister, coming from Mapabio. And Sela, we've talked about this.
I'm actually laughing, Rachel. It's funny.
It's funny.
But it's not funny
at all.
Of course, I should be able to judge you based on your performance, because that should tell me if you will perform, if you eventually become the Senate President of Nigeria, if you'll be able to be strong enough to put your feet down and make a law and make sure that that law stands. So, of course, I mean, coming from a Pabio, I mean, I am disappointed personally in things like this coming, because I was laughing because we always talk about track record. We always talk about transparency. We always talk about how competent you are. So, of course, how are we going to tell that you are going to perform? Because, of course, I know as a Senate President, yes, I'm not expecting you to be commissioning different projects left, right, and center, no. But I'm hoping to see you making some, laws that will shake Nigeria. I'm hoping to see that you lead a delegation whereby when people hear that the Senate President has, give a ruling on something, know that, yes, he's not being biased based on anything, any sentiment whatsoever, but he's putting his feet down to make sure that Nigeria grows. So I'm hoping that maybe this is on another angle. He was trying to let us not judge him. But definitely, Nigeria will always want to take your track record and say, what have you done? And what will you be able to do? But this is not this is not on the hands of Nigerians. This is on the hands of the senators and then the present administration. But we hope that they'll be able to take all of these things into consideration as they will be making him the Senate President whatsoever.
I personally think this is a joke for you to say, don't judge me based on performance as minister. We have presidential candidates coming out to campaign on past glory. We have Tinubu coming out to campaign that he made Lagos great. Let's give him the opportunity to make Lagos and to make Nigeria great as he did with Lagos. We have Peter Obi coming and saying, I was able to successfully do this in my state. I can take Nigeria to the next level. We have Atiku coming and saying, you know what, I had this track record when I was a vice president. I was able to do this and do that. This is why you should make me president. So why would you come and say that nobody should judge you based on your performance as minister, where this is one way we can know and say, okay, you know what, when this person was a minister, he was able to do this. He was diligent. He was truthful. He was faithful. There was no case of fraud in him. There was no embezzlement of fund. He was transparent. He was accountable and all of that. And for you to say we shouldn't judge you based on that, it feels like a joke to me that somebody aspiring for a key position will come out and say something like that. Then what do we have to use to say this man is truly competent? I keep saying it's sad when you see people in power make such a statement, because this is not the first time we're having them saying something absurd that you wonder what were they thinking when they made this statement. But yes, whether you like it or not, we are going to judge you based on your past performance, and it's going to be what will be decided on whether you are truly a competent person or whether you fit for the position that you are fighting for.
Of course, yes. Rachel. Well, let's look at the next paper, which is the Matrix newspaper. Lawyers ask court to stop federal government $800 million loan. We're still having the back and forth whether this loan will be given or not. You can find detail of that story on the front page and also page 4. Federal government sack Fan MD, 5 orders to pave way for Nigerian air takeoff. You can find more also on the front page and also on page 4. Relief as resident doctors suspend nationwide strike is really huge relief, especially for patients that have been suffering this while. And we have Manchester City win Premier League for third successive. You can find more of that story on page 3 for sport lovers. UK to ban Nigerian students from bringing family over, which we've seen on most of the papers. You can read detail also inside the paper. Excitement as Buhari set to commission 650,000 barrel per day Dangote petroleum refinery today. With Dangote refinery on board, federal government might abandon state-owned refineries coming from stakeholders. We hope that that will not be the case, because that should just be an eye-opener for you to say, okay, why don't we revive other refineries that have been idled all this while, rather than just depending on the Dangote. I mean, just imagine if we have more refineries working. You could only imagine how much oil we could be refining every day. So I'm looking forward to that not being the case whatsoever.
Yes, Sally, because I keep saying it, and this kind of took me off balance to say it might, because it's not far from place when you see people predicting that this could be the case, because Nigeria has just had the track record of always abandoning one thing when something else seems to be working. I keep using the example of our agricultural sector. We found crude oil and we abandoned it, whereas we were supposed to take it to another level. So I'm just looking forward to where we don't abandon what was available in the past, but that now it becomes a plus to us. That is, we still make sure that those refineries start working or are even updated to a higher level, because we're looking forward to where we don't have to export our crude oil and buy oil back into the country, because that's one of the things that have been affecting us, because we are selling crude oil and it's an unfinished product. I keep saying it, and then we are buying a finished product higher than the price we sold our crude oil. I'm looking forward to where every oil that we consume in the country, we refine it, and we only have to worry and be concerned about just exporting the crude oil that other people get to consume, but not what we get to buy back. So I just hope that nothing is being abandoned, but this should just be a plus to the refineries.
Of course. Other writers to that story say one of their consequences of depending on one individual for Nigeria's energy need, and the same thing we are saying, we hope that we don't just depend on Dangote, but that we see other people coming up and even the country doing something in that regard. And Wike is telling aspirant National Assembly leadership, respect Tinubu APC's decision. You can find more of that story inside the paper. 22.7 trillion naira Ways and Means reps deny collecting $15 million from the executive. You can find more of that story. Lagos Equalize hit major markets in June. You can find more detail of that story. Lekki Seaport break largest vessel since its launch. You can find that story on page 14. And we have seen this is a picture story of the Dangote refinery as inaugurated in Lagos today. You can find detail of any story that's of interest to you inside the paper. But before we move further to other papers, we would like to take a time out at this moment so we can let you chew the story. What do you feel about the UK ban on Nigerians bringing their families over? What do you think about Dangote refinery? Which is, of course, this is the best news we are having at a time like this. But then we hope that this will not signal where we'll have our government abandoning other refineries. What you also feel about all of the story? We're still having the back and forth on the $100 million loan, and also there will be a meeting talking about the NBC meeting on the interest rate. So these and many other stories are what we are looking on the papers this morning. So when we come back, we will open the phone lines and then hear your thoughts on that. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Thanks so much for staying tuned. It's still the Dailies on your winning station. We've been looking at various stories that are making the lead on our paper. We've before we went on the break, I was telling you some of the stories like the UK ban on Nigerians bringing their families over. We're also having the inauguration of the Dangote refinery today in Lagos. We also have the back and forth on the $100 million loan that Nigeria is actually asking. And also we have other stories of Pabio, saying that we should not judge him based on his performance as the minister. These are many other stories that what we have been looking at on the papers this morning. Our numbers are displayed on your screen at this moment. You can do well to call us. Let us hear what your thoughts are concerning any of the story. Please do remember to be civil with your language when you call us, and also to turn away or move away from your TV set or turn down the volume, because we are interested in what you have to say concerning any story. And other viewers too will love to be part of what you are saying this morning. As we have Rachel with me in the studio. Thanks so much, Rachel.
You're welcome, Sarah.
All right, let's continue with the newspaper review.
On the Guardian newspaper, high expectations as Dangote breaks NNPC's monopoly, shrinks EU supply to Africa. You can find the details on page 6. Higher mortgage rates dampen real estate affordability and investment. 5,000 distressed residential office properties flood real estate market. You can find the details on page 27. Still on May 29, inauguration, security, economy, restructuring, Southeast peace, top list of demand from Tinubu. You can find the details on page 6. We have Babalola urges Tinubu to lobby for debt relief. You can find the details on page 17. But just 17 years ago, we had a debt relief, because I'm seeing this on our papers and I'm wondering how much are we keep going to be asking for a debt relief, because we have a Paris Club relief 17 years ago and we were able to get all what Nigeria owned, like waived off. We had a waiver and we didn't have to pay anything. But then we are seeing massive increases. Like the more we're having our debt waiver, like we taking more. I remember a caller asking, is there no restriction? Is there no limit? And I keep saying there is a limit, but what has been happening is that we're getting relief here, we're paying here, and we're collecting here, and we're collecting there. That's what has been happening to Nigeria. I believe that as long as we don't have infrastructures, we don't have businesses, we don't have economy, we don't have an economy that is generating a good enough revenue, even if we eventually, hopefully, because this is not a bad idea, it is an accepted idea. Even if we get a waiver, it doesn't take away the fact that we are still going to be in the position of saying, let them loan us another money. It doesn't take away the fact that we will still be going out to take more loan. So I'm just looking forward that we do the right thing as a country. We put in the right steps in place. That is not just about finding ways of having our debt being relieved, but that having a way of not collecting more debt, because I keep saying the problem is that we are not making enough to be independent from borrowing, and that is the problem in Nigeria. So yes, the debt waiver is not a bad idea. However, can we find the real solution? I keep saying it, let's stop looking for temporary solutions to our problem. We need a permanent one. The relief has showed us so far that that is not the way forward, that is not what Nigeria is in need of. Let's find the permanent solution to our debt profile as a
Rachel,
country.
Of course, just like you said, let's find a solution. And of course, you asked a very valid question, the fact that I'm going to keep asking for a waiver on our debt for every moment. Okay, what happens if after we're being forgiven for this present debt, are we still going to be asking for new debts?
Yeah, most
and
likely
then what do we
going
use
to
this money for? We need to learn. Like, we can't keep having the same process over and over. All right, we have a call. All right, good morning, sir. Go on, please.
Okay. The issue I want to deliberate on is the issue on UK to ban Nigerians from bringing their children to
their families.
It's a welcome development.
Their families too.
It's a welcome development in the sense that their children and their family at large have been able to know the challenges that we common Nigerians is feeling. Insecurity and all what have you, when they stay for the country at least for a year without traveling to UK and every other developed country, they've been able to know if they want to make Nigeria to work for all of us. Go. If they really want Nigeria to work for all of us, they will be feeling the impact. Then coming to Akpabio, who is a governor before becoming the minister, he did well. He did well during his gubernatorial time. But as a minister, I did not see anything that I can cram of him. He is the one who owed Nigeria apology on, as in to explain to us why we shouldn't blame him. We will blame him because we thought he would do more than when we go to federal level. Then, as a regards to debt, Nigeria or borrowing, when we have not discovered oil, we have been doing well in the country. A lot of things is working. But when we discover oil that everybody thought that the oil is going to become a helping hand to Nigeria, that is when our debt starts increasing. See, the country we are having, the level of politicians we have these days is something that we cannot boast of. If we've been able to develop the country before independence, if we've been able to develop the country before the discovery of oil, now that God has given us something we should be proud of, we are having debt increase. If this money is being released before the end of another 8 years, just tell me how much is going to be the debt. And the one they took during this present administration, I did not see much in they use that debt. They borrow from China to do, and they are clamoring for another $1 billion. So are we helping ourselves? We are not helping ourselves. Until we come back to the truth, being able to know if we want to, these leaders, these so-called leaders that we are voting, if they are for themselves or they are for the masses. That is when Nigeria will start working for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that, Carter. You really asked the right questions. And we just hope better things will be done, especially. We are expecting a lot more from our leaders, so we hope they'll do the right thing. What I'm just shocked is the fact that, Rachel, we keep saying we have oil, yet oil has not been what has been bailing us out for the recession we've had in the past 8 years. It was agriculture. So why don't we sit back and think if agriculture can do such great and mighty things for us, there's something. All right, we have another call. Hello, good morning, sir.
All right.
I'm with you. Good morning.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good morning, Mrs. Sele.
Morning.
Good morning, Mrs. Rachel. I hope you had a nice weekend. My name is Sam. I call from Buhari.
All right.
Your headline today strike me in some places which I would like to react to them. First and foremost is the Buhari performance vis-a-vis the 460 million CCTV contract and our economy. Bad economy worse in 24 years. These are just a tip of an iceberg for a government that is outgoing, that we cannot wait for it to exist, to step down from the stage. I now believe that Buhari would have begun to feel the impact of the true news of the situation on the ground. He has been on the summit of the Aso Rock and never look at what is happening on the street. So those who are privileged to go and tell him, say, Baba, all is well. You are the best. Those who go there and tell him this thing, by the time he leaves and returns to Daura, he will begin to read the headline himself. That time he will not be able to, wait until people tell us we are bad in every situation in this government, and we cannot just wait to celebrate its exit. Haven't said that Dangote refinery today, everybody pump and chill, in Lagos, but then. If anybody is suggesting that maybe the government will not build its own refinery, then I said we should even stop NTA and the other government communication outfit. Let us depend on the private. We should also stop even education. Why federal university? Since we cannot just depend on the federal. So whoever is coming with such a decision that will allow Dangote alone to begin to enjoy the monopoly that apart from its refinery, we have no any other way. Now, my sisters out there, you and I does not know how much Dangote is going to sell those oil to us. Will it be at a local currency or an international currency? This is very important for the average Nigerian that is on the street, because if our purchasing power is based on the dollar, that's it. The federal government is selling the oil to Dangote on dollar. Definitely, we change us based on dollar, and we will not have anything yet to celebrate until after this commissioning. They come to Dangote to tell us how much they and the government that have given him the space to be able to build this. I congratulate him for this achievement. Don't judge me based on past record. We will judge you based on present record. It's not how far that you have come, but how well that you have reached at the cross line. We cannot be busy where your performance when you are in governor. By the time you become a minister, you build on the sources and even perform more than when you are a governor. Again, what of Akpabio's corruption charges? The billions of dollars, is it forgiving? What are we telling the younger one, the EFCC? Is it only the youth who are carrying laptop and this thing, you keep on chasing them? No. This is not how to build our country. Some of those questions we must keep on asking to get a better country. And finally, ex-leader to account for their wealth based on my celebrated governor, El-Rufai. We are told that those who come to the equity must come with their hand clean. We know El-Rufai before he moved to the federal level. We know what has the amount of water that has passed under the bridge. Let him tell us the best way to criticize the other man is to do your own better. Come and declare your own. Then we can be able to use it to assess others. Thank you, and do have a wonderful press review this morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sam from Buhari, for kind of summarizing the entire things on the paper. So we just hope that we'll do better, especially in regard to the Dangote refinery. Of course, it's a concern. How much are we going to be buying this oil right now? It's a quite point of, and just like you were saying, why do we keep sending? You're looking forward to where we refine our oil here in the country, and just imagine other minerals that are in the crude oil. Mind you, it's not just petroleum we take out of it. We have kerosene, diesel, and other minerals that we get from this oil. So I hope we'll do something better, Rachel. Well, I think let's go to the next paper. On the Guardian, Guardian newspaper.
Yes, we're still on the Guardian newspaper. We have Okelebo retires as acting AGF on May 28. You can find the details on page 4. At the downside of the paper, we have global disinformation experts launch international panel on information environment. You can find the details inside the paper. On page 3, we have a picture story where you can see the Dangote refinery that will be commissioned today. And that's all the news on the Guardian newspaper.
And on First News, we have oil exploration. Tinubu's government and other stakeholders must support Bayelsa to get justice. This is coming from the former commissioner. You can do well to read detail inside the paper. On failed Abuja CCTV project, court orders federal government to account for the $460 million Chinese loan. And on the Japa syndrome, UK set to ban Nigerian students from traveling with families. And we also have apply Obasanjo's style for debt forgiveness from creditors. Afe Babalola urges Tinubu. The big story on corruption allegation, Northern CSOS, collation Ohaneze youth swap on EFCC chairman. Bawa demand his resignation, sacked by President Buhari. Accuses EFCC boss of turning anti-graft agency to project of ridicule, political witch hunting and nepotism. You can find more of that story inside the paper. Resident doctors suspend nationwide strike. You can find detail of that story inside the paper as well. And on the 10th National Assembly Senate, don't judge me by my performance in Buhari's cabinet, coming from Akpabio. Bandit gone down 9 Kaduna farmers. We have to do something about insecurity as the farming season is already on the head. Of course, we're seeing farmers going to their farm. I hope the governors and the government and at large will do something to protect our farmers, because if we are looking at a projection, hoping that there might be famine in this year, then as a country, we need to do something to make sure that farmers are safe to go to their farms. Because if farmers can go to their farm, Rachel, you and I know there's going to be hunger in the land. So we hope something will be done. It's quite sad that we're having, about 9 farmers losing their life to bandit. We hope something is being done by the government. NDLEA seizes 1.5 billion naira meth hidden in coastal containers at Lagos Airport. You can find detail of that story inside the paper, and that's all on First News.
On Leadership newspaper, we have fact check. Did Clark condemn appointment of ex-IGP Abba as police trust fund chair? Then we have trending UK set to announce new immigration policy. You can find the details on page 2. Court asks federal government to account for $460 million Chinese loan. This is on the CCTV field project. You can find the details on page 7. And the big story, 7 days to go. Buhari shifts gear. Residents brace up as PNB's return to Dara enters final phase. You can find the details on page 4. On the 10th National Assembly leadership, Yari Kalu G6 turned down emissaries. Reps minority leadership, Atiku Wike in fresh war. 5 African presidents joined President Muhammadu Buhari to commission Dangote refinery today. You can find the details on page 31. And we have a picture story showing our president as he is planning for his return to Dara. And that's all the news on Leadership newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, Matawale's $2 million bribe allegation. We will not brandy words with suspect coming from the EFCC. Jeff and O'Brien International to host training for leading managers executive June 13. And on the failed Abuja CCTV project, court orders Buhari government to account for $460 million Chinese loan. And the big story, Buhari, 5 African president to commission Dangote Petroleum Refinery. You can find more detail of that story on page 22. We have a picture story. You can do well to read more detail of the story, or that actually gets your interest. And that's all on Nigerian News Direct.
On Daily Sun newspaper, US-based doctor files motion to delay Tinubu's inauguration. Tension as gunmen kill 15 in Kaduna, Benue, and vigilante in Delta. You can find the details on page 5. Latest Plateau attacks, church alleges killing of 130, raiding of 1,000 houses. The writer following the story says 22 worship centers, also 22 villages burnt. The details can be found on page 4. Federal government sacks FAA and MD appoints Mohammed new CEO. Major shakeup looms across aviation agencies. Failed Abuja CCTV project, court orders federal government to account for $460 million Chinese loan. Northern Group asks AFCC chair to go over corrupt allegations. We won't bandy words with Matawale, says commission. You can find the details on page 4. And that's all the news on Daily Sun newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at the Abuja Inquirer newspaper, where we have the first story here, say at least 37 policemen killed in 3 months. Force headquarters mom on the development. You can start reading that story on the front page and continue on page 3. National Assembly renovation complex will not be ready before inauguration, coming from the FCDA. Abuja will not be safe unless, now if you want to know what that unless means, you do well to read that story on page 6. Uni Abuja promotes 19 academics to professional level. You can find that also on page 10. Kidnappers kill ex-head teacher in Abuja. Quite a sad story. Do well to read that on page 15. The big story, countdown to inauguration in Abuja. Massive security deployment. Hotels fully booked. Artisan count gains. Anglican Church set agenda for Tinubu. You do well to read more of that story as well. Nigerians kick over UK student family travel ban. You can read more detail of that on page 3. We can see our VC that's the vice president of the country, together with other students, with a group of school children during the commissioning of the CAF auditorium donated by some chief in Abuja during the weekend. So you can do well to read more detail of any story that is of interest to you. And that's all we can take on the program this morning. Thanks so much, Rachel, for doing
Always
this to
a
me.
pleasure, Sarah.
Thank you so much to our callers are calling this morning and aired their very, very great, points in some of the stories on the papers this morning. Please do remember to be peaceful, stay away from trouble, and love one another. Do have a blessed day ahead.